My parents couldn't afford to fly within the country to my wedding, but they could go to Europe with my golden sister. Now, with the video of my wedding speech, everyone knows about the favoritism. Just a couple of days ago, I finally married my boyfriend after 7 years of dating. We had so much fun, and the weather was perfect for the wedding. There are many videos from that day, and I ended up posting one on social media. The whole family has been watching it, commenting, and it's been a topic of controversy until now. Basically, it's a video of my wedding speech where I kind of criticized my parents. I said many things that can't be taken back. My parents obviously aren't happy about it at all, and my older sister Kim seems even less pleased. She's been telling me I should apologize, but I'm taking into consideration that she's my parents' golden child when analyzing her opinion. In the video, I made some jokes about how my parents clearly don't value me, since they didn't even bother to be with me on my wedding day. I made some jokes at my own expense, too. I could have been meaner if I'd wanted to. I said I was clearly my parents' backup daughter, but since the main one was working fine, they never really needed me. I also made a joke saying that, at the end of the day, I was grateful that my parents had given me such a wonderful wedding gift. Their absence, because nothing could be better than having your two biggest critics and haters away from you on your most special day, and ensuring that the person who has been your biggest rival your whole life also stayed away. Referring to my parents and Kim, it's not like I started insulting them or calling them names or saying awful things, just a bit of humor at their expense, which they deserved. I think that was the last joke that really hurt them, but only them, because for me and the guests, it was the funniest of all. Also because I thought they deserved it. Of course, they couldn't see it the same way and laugh with all of us. They thought it was horrible and disrespectful and completely out of place for me to say all those things. And the fact that everyone has been commenting on my post, telling me how funny I am and how spot on my speech was, sounds to them like disguised criticism, and they can't stand it. They're not wrong, but they are wrong about deserving it. So they've been telling me to delete that video and post an apology to them. An apology that they would write themselves so that, and I quote, none of my jokes slip out, but the joke's on them. Because I'm not taking down any video and I'm not apologizing, especially if the apology will be written by the Gestapo. Now, the reason I said all those things will finally make sense to everyone reading this. After promising me for months that they would definitely be at my wedding, they decided not to attend. And they told me this 3 weeks before the wedding day. So I had enough time to change my wedding speech and incorporate those little adjustments and jokes to give it back to them. Sorry, parents. Next time, cancel at the last minute. Kim hadn't made any promises. I invited her like everyone else, and she declined the invitation saying she already had plans. She didn't even explain more, nor did I ask for details. The fact that she had plans and couldn't attend was enough for me. Honestly, I didn't care much. She and I have never been very close, and the fault is entirely my parents due to the rivalry and preferences. In their eyes, I would never be the winner. Even if I did something better than Kim, they would never acknowledge it. That was always something I hated about her, but I think my hatred was misdirected all this time. We used to fight a lot when we were younger, but as we grew up, we simply started treating each other politely for the family's sake, and that was it. At least we could be civilized, but with my parents, I don't know why. I still had certain expectations. And if that wasn't bad enough, let me give you some more details that will help understand the situation. Not only did they refuse to come to my wedding 3 weeks before the event where my dad was supposed to walk me down the aisle, but they told me it was because they couldn't afford the flight here, since I live 2 states away. For those who don't live in the United States, that's a few $100s. Obviously, I didn't believe them because my parents are quite comfortable financially speaking, but I still tried to take it into account and offered to pay for at least a one-way trip. Since the other wedding expenses were already very expensive, my husband and I had decided from the beginning that we weren't going to pay for guest travel. They would have to take care of that, but everything else would be covered. For my parents, however, I decided to make an exception. The only reason I offered to pay for their ticket was because I suspected there was something else behind it and wanted to see their reaction. I thought they would at least argue for me to pay for the return ticket, but they didn't. They said it was too big an expense for them at this time. The excuse was that they were trying to save because my dad's business had been doing poorly the last few months, and now they thought it was time to start saving money because he was very close to retiring. So I let it go and told them I was okay with their decision. Even then, I was disappointed, but I hadn't decided to insult them in my speech or anything like that. But then, a week and a half before my wedding, I started seeing photos on my sister's social media account, where she was in Europe with her family, her husband, and her 2 children. But guess who else appeared in those photos? Yes, the savers. My parents were in each and every one of them, on a trip whose ticket would cost several $100s or above $1,000. And what was most interesting was that it was very evident that everyone in those photos was wearing luxury, brand clothes and accessories. They even posted photos of the hotel and restaurants they visited. Everything clearly indicated it was a luxury trip. Kim's husband has a lot of money. She runs her own business, so they can afford a trip like that. But the fact that my parents had chosen to go with her instead of attending my wedding, which is basically a once-in-a-lifetime event, affected me so much that I immediately called my dad to ask what was going on. I asked him about the photos. He admitted that was part of the reason he and my mother had chosen not to come to my wedding, because at the end of the day, Kim and her husband were paying for them to go to Europe, a trip that, according to them, would bring them closer to their grandchildren. I asked if he realized this was very offensive to me, but my dad told me he thought this was slightly more important because he was spending time with the grandchildren, and that's what my mother wanted too. Something I didn't mention before, because it wouldn't make sense to you, is that when they asked me to take down the video, one of my responses was, leaving the video posted is slightly more fun for me. The grandchildren excuse was just that, an excuse. Actually, no one could deny it was because of my sister and how luxurious the trip was. It's not like they could never see their grandchildren. In fact, my sister lives much closer to them than I do, so they see each other almost every week. Don't believe the excuse that it was for anything other than the fact that it was my sister who asked them to accompany her, and they would never say no to her, especially if it was at my expense. That was all I needed to make my decision. After that, I had no doubts about writing all those jokes in my speech, nor about saying them out loud in front of all my guests. And at least they were just jokes. It's not like I had directly insulted them or tried to humiliate them, which they did. I made it funny because at the end of the day, it was my wedding and I wanted to keep it light. I didn't want that day to revolve around them. I just wanted to throw some indirect comments at them, and I think I succeeded. Besides, the whole family was already surprised that they had decided not to come to my wedding to be able to go with Kim to Europe. And even people who aren't part of the family, for them it was already pretty bad that my parents hadn't attended. I think they even heard from others that it was because they were on vacation with my sister. So I think the comments they received on my video, and the fact that everyone is laughing at them and no one thinks they're right, I think they totally deserve it. And I don't think it's my fault. I think it's their fault because, in the end, whether they like it or not, they have 2 daughters and playing favorites is wrong. The worst part is not realizing it, because as far as I know, they don't do it. With their grandchildren, it's just something between daughters. Right now, my plan is not to take down the video at all. Just leave it there until people get bored. But the notifications don't stop coming. I can assure you of that. My parents can blow steam out of their mouths, but they should clean it with the expensive sweaters my sister gave them. At this point, if they want me to take it down, they'll have to find a lawyer. At least it will cost them some tickets to my state for him to file a lawsuit to remove it, and I still don't think they'll succeed. First, I have to thank you because you've been very good with all your messages and comments. I expected a large share of people like my parents out there, but they stayed pretty quiet. Just a couple of comments telling me they're my parents and what I did to them was wrong, plus another telling me I'm just as bad because I did that at my wedding. The rest are sensible people with a minimum amount of neurons so that talking and breathing isn't a life or death task. I feel sorry because if they start talking, they'll probably soil their pants. It's too much effort for their little neurons. Before getting into anything else, let me tell you something. My husband, my bridesmaids, and all my friends and family agreed with that speech. In fact, since it was our wedding, I even asked my husband if he agreed with me giving that speech, and he thought it was hilarious. He's one of those partners who, when you ask if they want to go to war with you, they respond. Let me take the tank to the car wash first. He thought it was completely fine for me to do it, because those jokes were just a very small part. The rest of the speech was all about us, and about the loved ones who had really taken the trouble to accompany us on such a special day. So no one needs to worry about his reaction to all this. He knew I would never do something like that without talking to him first. Now it's been a week since my wedding. I've been trying to enjoy it, but because of my parents and because Kim won't stop trying to write me, email me, call me, and do whatever, to make that video disappear from the internet, I haven't quite succeeded. I think Kim is also interested in this, since although I barely mentioned her, people comment because she went on a trip for my wedding inviting my parents. But since my husband and I are leaving on our honeymoon in 2 days, they've been blocked. Good luck finding us to give us the citation to remove the video. Besides, I don't even know why I had bothered not to block them before, because it's not like they were going to apologize to me or anything. I don't know what I expected. I guess I still thought that deep down at least one of my parents would reconsider and try to make it up to me. Clearly that's not going to happen, so I don't see the point in continuing to have hope anymore. And more importantly, instead of trying to recognize that they never prioritize me, they expect me to apologize for expressing my own feelings and saying them out loud. Actually, they expect me to believe I'm wrong for saying what I think and what's true. That's ridiculous. Obviously, I'm not going to apologize, and I'm not going to remove the video from the internet either, because the jokes are only 2 minutes of the entire video. I'm not going to make the effort to edit it, cut those parts, and re-upload it. If they have a problem, they can simply choose not to watch it. And in fact, the rest of the family already knows what's happening, so deleting it wouldn't make any difference. The family and their friends already think badly of them. It's not exactly my fault, it's that they're bad people and their actions prove it. Anyway, the conclusion is that I blocked them. That stopped Kim from trying to contact me, But it didn't change anything with my parents because a few hours ago they decided to create another email account to reach me. They told me I really need to start behaving responsibly with them because at the end of the day, they're my parents and we're a family, whether I want it or not, and I owe them at least basic respect. In that same email, they said, my behavior not only made them look bad because of the jokes I made, but also made me look bad. And I don't agree at all because literally in the video, you can hear everyone laughing at my jokes. And I think everyone who was there understands why I said what I said, except my parents. Because being honest, I don't think they're used to thinking about anyone else's feelings besides their own. I lie. I was forgetting about Kim's. But aside from that, no one else matters to them, so I don't expect them to understand either. Anyway, they've been trying very hard to get me to remove that video, and that's not gonna happen. I won't do it. They can keep being offended and they can keep creating new accounts to try to contact me. It won't make any difference to me. I blocked that new email address too because I don't want to hear anything from them. In fact, while I'm on my honeymoon, I'm not even gonna check my emails, and I've already informed my coworkers about that. Besides, I don't think they need me that much because I've already finished all my work, and even if they needed me so urgently, they'll have to manage on their own because I'm not gonna let anything ruin the vacation. Not my parents, not my sister, not their great entitlement, which seems to be a separate entity. Update to my husband and I just spent the most wonderful days of our lives on our honeymoon and returned a couple of days ago. Now we have to get back to routine since we've both returned to work and it's been a bit boring. I think no one wants to come back from their vacation, from escaping the drama, but trust my parents to make things interesting. Apparently, they returned from their trip to Europe, but instead of going home, they decided to visit me. They came this afternoon, and it was definitely a surprise to see them at my door. Their honor, their pride, and their sense of entitlement was worth the airplane ticket money. I was a bit disoriented for a moment, but I opened the door and invited them in. I was perfectly polite and cordial because I was going to treat them, normally, unless they did something that bothered me. Until then, I was willing to be civilized, and I guess even my parents felt the same because at first they were very quiet. They asked polite questions about the wedding, how everything had gone, and even talked to my husband and apologized for not being there. Reddit people were being courteous. Can you believe it? After all that, I was waiting for things to get worse, which I knew would inevitably happen. Naturally, after a few seconds of silence, my dad started talking and told me the real reason they were there was because of the video. I told them I had been thinking about it, and after much debate with my thoughts, which were a bit disorganized and out of place, I had made the executive decision to analyze in detail all the aspects surrounding the video and how my parents had been affected, and ultimately the video was staying, yes, I drew that out as much, as here to see my parents' faces with the expectation that I was going to delete it. My parents didn't look happy with that, because they started telling me they had felt very hurt by what I said, because apparently the jokes were in bad taste and that if I had such a problem with them not coming to my wedding, I should have talked to them about it like a mature person, and they would have undoubtedly made their own arrangements to come. These words come from the same people who didn't have money for a couple of airplane tickets to my state to attend my wedding, but did to clean their honor, and who hid everything about the trip with my sister. I didn't even know what to answer. It's not that I don't have experience with their level of entitlement, favoritism, and nonsense, but this seemed like talking to someone mentally without all their faculties. The only thing I told them is that any normal parent would know their child probably wants them at their wedding, and if they didn't know that, then I didn't know what to tell them either. At that point, they started telling me I was misinterpreting things, that they just wanted to let me know they hadn't intended to hurt me, and they simply thought I would be fine without them, which is why they didn't make the effort to attend. I don't know how that was supposed to make things better. For me, it was just adding salt to the wound, and I started feeling very upset, so I told them that if they had come just to give me an explanation of everything that had happened, then I thanked them for bothering so much, but I didn't see the point in drawing it out more, because each one had their own opinion, and they would never agree. So it was best to leave it there. Then my mother exploded and told me they couldn't just leave it, because at the end of the day, because of how I felt, I was portraying myself as the victim and making them look like the villains to everyone. So they couldn't let that pass no matter how much they wanted to. At that point, I was already quite upset too. My response was something like I wasn't making them look like the villains. It was their own actions that spoke for themselves. It's not like I had lied about what happened or like my jokes weren't based on the truth. It's not my fault the truth, and that they're such clowns that people find it funny and see them as the bad guys. The truth is it took me 5 seconds to change the speech, since they themselves gave me all the inspiration I needed. Then I thanked them because a comedian couldn't have an easier job with them. My mother then said she was ashamed of me, that she was embarrassed to even be related to me, and I responded that the feeling was mutual, because with the things people were commenting about them, the truth is I felt embarrassed to be mentioned as their daughter. My dad tried to calm the situation, but when my mom started insulting me, calling me names and all that, I lost my patience and started yelling at her to get out of my house because I simply didn't need this in my life at that time. That lasted a while, but I finally managed to get them to leave after threatening them with taking one of my husband's hunting weapons and using it on them. I wasn't going to call the police. I wasn't going to let others do the dirty work of getting them out of my home. So they left. But my dad still took the trouble to remind me that they were still my parents, and they had never seen anything like this coming from one of their daughters. Of course, they hadn't seen it coming because they spoiled one of their daughters until she had more entitlement than them and then expected the other to be okay with all that. Honestly, I didn't care. If they want to disinherit me, never speak to me again in their lives, or tell their own version of events, they can do it. Right now, they matter less to me than the mailman. I wouldn't be lying. He's a kind man who always greets and brings important things. My parents are disgusting. They only use their kindness as weapons, and every time I see them, I feel like an ulcer is going to explode inside me. My husband wasn't there during the whole altercation, but then when I told him everything, he agreed, saying we should have invited the mailman and his family to the wedding. He has a wife and an older daughter in college, so it would have been like inviting my parents and Kim, just without so much entitlement and narcissism. I hope my parents have returned, and I never have, to see them at my house again. I think we have nothing to talk about. Update 3. It's been a year since my last update and a year since I got married. And it's been a crazy roller coaster with my husband by my side, but in a good way. I love that this first year is exciting and fun. I didn't know it was possible to love him even more than I loved him before we got married. But that's the crazy thing, it happened. And now he's going to be a dad and I'm going to be a mom. I have the feeling I'm going to love him even more. I'm pregnant, I've known for a couple of weeks, and it's something we had planned. So it's not a surprise or something unwanted. We can't wait to meet our baby, and we've already thought about names and started looking at colors for their room. That's how excited we are. We posted our pregnancy announcement a couple of hours ago, and although my parents and I haven't had contact since my last update, they decided to email me to congratulate me. They told me they wished things could be different, and maybe they would have been if I had been a little less selfish. But since I can't change my way of being, and they can't change what they feel either, it's better that we stay separated. Still, they said they wanted to wish me the best on this new path that my husband and I are starting. It was a very strange message. I could tell they were trying hard to appear to be good people who cared about me, but the way they tried to put the blame on me ruined the whole gesture. It sounded more like an excuse to tell me what they thought of me than really give me congratulations. Either way, the point is I didn't appreciate it. It seemed completely unnecessary to me, and that's why I didn't respond, not even to thank them. I didn't see anything in that message worth thanking for. I just blocked this new email, and that was it. But as I said in my last update, it doesn't matter anymore. I have bigger things in my life now, and I'm very grateful for it. Update 4. Something was brewing between my parents and my sister all this time, but no one had told me anything. That's fine. It's been a long time since I've had contact with them, so I didn't know too much until now when everything became public drama between them. The complete gossip is that my parents wanted to move to a new house, a bit bigger than the one they have. I don't know why. If neither of their two daughters lives with them, and now not even the grandchildren will go spend time there. At least my baby, who hasn't been born yet, I know won't. But they probably just wanted a big house for status, to have a pool, and to live in a better neighborhood. They expected my sister to pay the difference. They would sell their house, and my sister would put in the additional money to cover what they were looking for. Everything I've been told is that my parents expected about $500,000. That money was going to be put up precisely by my sister's husband, because she's doing well, but not well enough to give that amount to my parents. And she was willing to do it, but her husband apparently not so much. The problem is that my parents sold the house, even below market value, to be able to move to the other one as soon as possible. They were anxious and needed my sister and her husband's money added to their own to buy the new home. But my brother-in-law canceled everything at the last moment, or my sister couldn't convince him in the end, and now my parents are looking for another house with the money they had left from the failed operation. This has caused total drama of accusations between my parents and my sister, because now she has problems in her marriage and my parents accuse her of having played with the illusion of buying them a house and making them lose money. I found out all this was happening when they took the fights public, which led me to ask what was going on. I'm not surprised because from the moment of the wedding, I realized their relationship was more monetary and for material interests than anything else. My parents had put a lot of hope in my sister, thinking she would be successful and have a lot of money to perhaps give them better years in old age. And I must admit they weren't wrong, because my sister succeeded on her own merits, but she also got a husband with quite a bit of money. Only my parents' plan failed because that money wasn't for them, nor did they have a right to it. I'm glad. My parents lose money, whether it's $10,000 or $50,000, I don't know exactly how much, and that they have to move to something smaller. Their pretensions don't give them the right to other people's money. Edit. My sister is in the middle of a divorce now. I don't know the exact reasons, and I can't confirm if it's my parents' fault or if there are more hidden reasons. I only know that things between my parents and her are very cold because they don't even follow each other on social media anymore.